So what is burnout and how can you move from burnout to breakthrough? So today we get to talk with the amazing Eileen McDargh. She's got a great new book, Burnout to Breakthrough, Building Resilience to Refuel, Recharge, and Reclaim What Matters. And I got to tell you, I was thinking, well, how the heck does this relate to salespeople? And the answer is, if you're a sales professional or sales leader, you're probably more tired than ever. You might even be a little bit burnt out, but it could be the thing that saves you too. Let's see. So today we're going to talk with Eileen. We're going to see how we can move from burnout to breakthrough, talk about her book, talk about some suggestions and things you could actually use, whether you're a salesperson, a sales leader, or somebody else who's feeling a little bit burned out. What's up, Eileen? How are you, my friend?
I'm great. I'm great. And thank you so much for making this opportunity. Every time we can talk about this, we can both share ideas, and I'm always eager to learn from you too, Phil.
Oh, thank you. Well, this is fun. So I like I said in the intro there, I was like, burnout to break. I don't know how this fits, but as we talked about it more, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so important. So let's start with defining burnout, because I think that's an important place for us to start. So what does burnout mean as you define it, please?
Well, I really think I like the definition that Herbert Freudenberger did back in the 70s, where it is to exhaust one's resources, mental, emotional, and or physical, by excessively striving to reach some unrealistic expectation imposed upon by yourself or society. So we have these pictures of what we're supposed to be doing. And the symptoms are everything from, obviously, it's exhaustion. It has a tremendous amount to do with exhaustion, irritability. You're disenchanted with the work that you were doing. People will say you don't smile anymore. You can be overdoing alcohol, overdoing eating, or underdoing. You're not sleeping at all. You're restless, you're unhappy. So it goes everything from just a little match all the way to a full-on 10-alarm fire. So what's interesting about this burnout, Phil, that just intrigues me, because I've been talking about resiliency for the last 19 years, in addition to communication and leadership, is that in the last 3 years, I remember Freudenberger defined this in the mid-70s, in the last 3 years, almost every program I did connected to resilience, they wanted in the context of burnout. So this has become a huge issue, not just for salespeople, for everybody. And the World Health Organization last year in May declared it, put it in its classification of diseases, even though they didn't call it a disease. They called it an occupational hazard and a global one. And the amount of money, you talk about sales, the amount of money that is lost due to burnout, to stress. In the United States, actually North America, it's over $300 billion a year. A year.
Wow. $300 billion. Wow. That would be about my last quarter. So that's really good. That's a realistic number there, but wow, that's so much, 300 billion with a B. So how do, I guess let's get started here. I mean, how do we know when we're burnt out? I mean, does like our watch go off and say, Phil, you're burnt out? Or how do we understand that? Like, what's the symptoms?
Well, first, exhaustion really is one. Now, exhaustion can be physical exhaustion. It can be mental exhaustion. It's like, I can't even think about this anymore. I just don't want to go there. It can be that your best beloved is telling you you're paying more attention to your smartphone than you are to me. We haven't had a conversation in a very long time. It might be that your children won't open the door for you because they've been told don't open the door for strangers. And you're the stranger because they haven't seen you. And it can also be reflected in some physical ailments like hives. It can be in, like a shortness of breath. Now, I'm not being a physician here. There certainly are other things that could get that. But it has both physical implications as well as just behavioral implications. And I think most people don't want to admit when they're getting burned out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it feels like weakness, right? I mean, I'm supposed to be able to do more, right? I'm a guy and I'm supposed to just plow through and make this stuff happen. And yet that's not the truth at all. I mean,
well, it isn't. That, right? And, the very first case study in the book was this, it's one of the things I say, what's a trigger? It's the thoughts in our head. It's personal history. What the history is constantly saying, you're supposed to be this way. Oh, Phil, gosh, your grandfather's depending upon you. He always thought you were the smartest grandkid. I'm making this up. So I can't let my grandfather down. Can't let my grandfather down. Well, my first case study, he worked 3 jobs, and he was first generation from India, living in Canada, and decided I just have to work this way. Well, he had and I'd almost have to get my book to be specific, but Hamas had 1 to 2 hours sleep in the course of 3 days. Went into the bathroom, into the corporate office, woke up 12 hours later in a pool of vomit, but got up, Phil, and convinced himself that that was an aberration and there was nothing wrong. And it wasn't until there was another incident in which he literally was almost catatonic, so he couldn't move out of his chair. Now, obviously, this is the extreme. But the point here is we can try to convince ourselves we're not listening to what our bodies often tell us, what our brain wants to deny.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I can tell you when I'm totally wiped out, even if my brain isn't hitting it there, I need to sleep, or I like almost force myself to go take a walk and clear my head out, or at least get my butt off the chair. I mean, my Apple Watch helps remind me every hour, hey, dude, get up. You haven't moved. But sometimes I do that for 3 hours.
Well, you're lucky to have an Apple Watch. Not everybody has an Apple Watch.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And what you just said actually is one good strategy, is that you move. If we want to begin to get our life back in control, one of the first places to get it back in control is physical. And physical has to do with this body here. You said sleep. Oh, man, sleep. But it's also our physical surroundings. If you're sitting wherever you're working, right, and we haven't even talked about working at home, because that adds a whole new complexion to this idea. But where you're sitting right now, if you can't even find it because of all the stuff that's piled up around, and you spent 3 hours looking for it, well, that in itself you can just imagine, it's like I'm being inundated with all these files and everything is coming down on top of my head. If you can even physically clear, only put in front of you, if I'm going to make a sales call, just give me the one sales call right here. Don't pile up 45, because instead of paying attention to the one, my eye is over there on the other 45 I'm supposed to do. So just do the one and then go to the other.
Yeah, that's good suggestion, right? As we're looking to prepare better for those sales calls, we have to prepare one at a time, but we could prepare and group them based on people, like personas, like people that might have similar conversations. Take some notes, but don't over prepare in such that everything is cluttered. I think that's really a good reminder. And as I look in my space, because I just moved, I'm like, okay, yep, all right, pretty good. And now I have to make sure we have that clean. But yeah, you said work from home, and that is interesting, right? We've all moved, or most of us have moved, to a work from home model where we're working from home, and we have to unclutter. So how do we, what added change or challenge does that bring us, Eileen, as we're looking at how does that burn us out even more?
Well, let me give it in a couple of layers. One is, there is a transition between home and, quote, the office, however you define that to be. That transition space is actually sometimes very, very valuable. The transition is gone. It's not, I can't escape from my surround. I'm here. So that inability to have a break between, quote, the work over here and the home over here, they're now intertwined. The other thing is that, this is going to sound very crazy, it's the increased amount of loneliness. The people that I could interact with, even if I only saw them, down the hall, or we might grab a cup of coffee over here. So I have limited contact. So this also says is that not only I don't have the physical place, but also it is potential that within this, quote, home, it's not just me. I have a spouse. I have 3 kids. I have a dog that needs to be walked. And my spouse is also working. And we don't have an office. We're both trying to share the kitchen counter, or the dining room table. So the closeness, can just sometimes be really overwhelming. So what the opportunity is, and I always like to look at what the opportunity is. The opportunity first is to have some real transparent, open conversations with the people who inhabit your living space. Who needs what? What hours can we do this? And it's your turn to walk the dog Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll walk the dog Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever that. But we really have to understand this is a unique environment. It also sometimes will give us the opportunity to become closer to the people at home because we are there. When I take a break, I can go read to that 4-year-old. I can go say, let's go outside and in the backyard, let's throw a ball together. I can't do that when I'm in an office. And the other opportunity, I think, Phil, is that it's an opportunity if you are managing a remote workforce, that instead of just sending down the, every 2 days, here's your assignment. How are you doing? And we, most of the time, anyway, we're doing stuff with email. That now I actually get to look at people. I think there is a real benefit in Zoom, even though people, laugh. But I mean, you're in Florida, I'm in California, but here we are looking at each other. And so if I have my team around me, I want to first say, I want to know how you guys are doing. Tell me what was the best thing that happened yesterday for you. What is it that we've got you doing that now that you're stepping back, you say, you know what? This doesn't make much sense. This is a great time to create new ways of doing business, new processes. So often what burns us out is crap that we shouldn't be doing. We need to dump the stuff that doesn't work. Yeah. And by being away from the office, all of a sudden I'm going to find some stuff that, as one hospital up in Canada created, they called it gross. Get rid of stupid stuff. So we have an opportunity to say, why am I doing 25 sales reports? The truth of the matter is you only want one. Why am I doing 25? And oh, by the way, I spent, and listen to somebody do this, spent 3 full days creating a report like this big, went into the manager, put it down on the desk, and the manager wanted it right away. And by the way, we need to know how to negotiate assignments to get rid of some of that workload. So that when the manager said, I want it right away, person stopped, did everything right away. 3 days later, here's the report, goes in. In this case, obviously, we're not locked down. Takes the report, flips to the back page, read the summary. Didn't need the Excel spreadsheets, didn't need the flow chart, didn't need the P&L, didn't need the graph. All he wanted was therefore in conclusion. So there were 2 negotiation points there that the person who was getting number one said, what do you mean by right away? Because actually, when the report was presented to the manager, the manager said, oh, wow, that was quick. Yes, you said right away. Well, by right away, I figured if we had it by the end of the week. Ooh, that's very different than right away. And then never said, exactly what do you want? Because if I had asked that question, I didn't have to do this. All I needed was this.
Wow. That's so good. I mean, I had similar things when I was in leadership as an IT leader where I did the same thing. I went in, I eliminated 100 reports and created one. And that was super, super helpful. You get rid of stupid stuff. That resonates with Ben here, right? Really, really strong on that. And Leah here says that people renew our energy by interacting after work, right? It's been hard, absolutely way hard for me too. As an extrovert, I struggle with that. And how do we do that at home? Jason Wisher says a shared calendar so we can communicate and plan. Really, really good.
That's a great one. And also as a manager, that you allow them to plan, particularly if they are sharing that environment with other people, another family, that calendar, you're allowed to create special time for the family. Because I think what we've seen is in this initial work from home, people are working harder than ever before because I have to show some kind of results. You're not seeing me sitting there. So we want to be able to honor the fact that work and life are not separate. It's like the DNA molecule. They go like this. They spin. We have to put them together.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. And grateful for Zoom, right? Ben says that video conferencing is a great opportunity more. So yeah, it's more social, but in some ways it's also less, right? We don't get that opportunity, as Leah mentioned, to actually touch, right? To actually go. I think the difference is, right, the belly to belly versus the eyeball to eyeball, because in between there's our heart. And sometimes that, you know.
I love it that you said, and I'm a hugger from way back. So this is really hard. So when I go for my run in the morning, I'm really happy if somebody's walking a dog, because the dog is generally on a 6-foot leash. So I can at least pet the dog. That's a cute little kid in that thing. But here's how you get the heart, is that our conversations aren't just name, rank, serial number, and what was the result. Our conversations have to do with our emotions. Our conversations have to do, how do we share something about ourselves? Vivek Murthy, who is the 19th Surgeon General of the United States, has written a wonderful book called Together. And it's about the rise of loneliness. And even when we were in our own offices, by the way, there was still this rise of loneliness because we kept all of our interactions on a very superficial level. And when we don't feel heard, really heard, when we don't feel understood, we can feel very lonely. And so what it suggested is that what we need to develop are the hardest skills in this work relationship are the softest skills. Listening. Listening is a skill you grow. Most of us are not born great listeners. We're always into our own stuff. But the clearer I can be empathetic, I can listen. I got to tell you, even though I can't hug you, you will feel that I understand and appreciate. And I can also be transparent about myself, which also says, as a leader, if I'm a sales leader or whatever kind of leadership, can I also be humble? Humble means that I ask other people not only what they're feeling, but give me ideas of what we need to do. I'm not the one with all the answers. The world is far too complex. And answers of things that can at least pivot, we can try something new, can come from anywhere. So I have to be humble enough to say, I have no idea. I have some, but I want to hear from you. That's very honoring too.
Wow. I love that. And I love that definition of humble and humility, right? That I don't know everything, that all of us is always smarter than any one of us. And I think that's so important. And as we're talking here about that burnout to breakthrough, right? That being there for other people often can help us recognize what's inside of us as well.
Oh, you know what? I love why you said that, because it brings up another thing that we're discovering, and we know that if I'm all into myself, I'm exhausted, just kidding. The degree to which I can go out to someone else, to give to someone else, even if it's a short thing, is a way of refueling. And remember, part of this was building resilience to refuel. It can refuel me. So today, I do a run every morning, and I do it very early before anybody's out. And as I go down a ramp toward the beach, there's a place where I can run. Here is the landscape crew, and they've got the, I guess, leaf blowers, except in this case, they're blowing the sand off of the ramp as it goes down to the beach. And this morning, I caught the man's eye, and I said, "Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for making this walkway much easier without the sand." He got the biggest grin on his face. And I thought, well, why haven't you done that before, Eileen? Why didn't you thank him? Look, and I felt good. It at least helped the next, quarter mile go a little bit better, because I kept thinking about that simple act of giving, of going out to others, helps you refuel.
Wow. That's great. That's such a simple thing we can do. Share a smile, share a thank you, share some gratitude and just let them know that they're making a difference. Because often it gets back to that first point of how do we get burned out? Well, we think we don't make a difference anymore. We think that what the work we does doesn't matter anymore. And that's really, really tough. So as we do that, let's talk a little bit more about building up that resiliency muscle. And then we'll end with a little bit about breakthrough. So how do we build that up? Eileen, right? We identified breakthrough now. We know how it feels. We know what it kind of looks like. But now we have to build up that resiliency muscle. So maybe either A, it takes longer to get burned out, or B, when we get burned out, we're able to bounce back faster.
All right. So first off, I'm going to push back on you right now, Phil, because you should use this phrase bounce back. I do not believe there's anything in the human system that's bouncing back. You're not a piece of steel. You're not a willow tree that's going to go, boing, I'm back to where I was. For us as humans, there's no such thing as going back. You either stay stuck or you grow through. So my definition of resiliency is to grow through challenge or opportunity so that you end up wiser, smarter, better on the other side. It's all about growth. And ultimately, what allows us to grow is energy management. Do I have the energy, the mental, emotional, physical hardiness to grow? No energy, no growth. And energy comes from creating connections. You think about it, you get into your car, you push the button, you turn the key. If it's a good connection, the spark goes to the battery. Well, depending on what kind of car you got now. If it's a good connection, car moves forward. Bad connection, energy's drained. You don't go anywhere. So to build resiliency, and by the way, this is a life skill. This is not something where also you go, okay, I'm done. I'm resilient. No, it's a life skill. And so I'm constantly refining, just like any skill. It's a muscle, and a muscle that we can practice. And by the way, resiliency can be taught. And what we're doing, it begins in our head, are the connections in our head, the talk that we have in our head. And how do I retrain my brain? Because I'm creating new neural pathways. So instead of saying, oh, yeah, go, okay, I might not care for this so much, but this too shall pass. That's a wonderful phrase, by the way. This too shall pass. Everything we know, this too shall pass. Might not pass as fast as we want it to. But what is it that I can do now to allow me to grow through this place that I find myself? And also, Phil, notice that I said it's for challenge as well as opportunity. Let's pretend you got a great opportunity. You're going to be creating something new in the next 2 weeks. It's a great opportunity. It's going to require a tremendous amount of energy on your part. So if I'm going to be giving out energy over here to create this opportunity that's new, how am I going to refill on the other side? How am I going to bring stuff physically back into me? How am I going to go take that walk? How am I going to go hold the hand of my best beloved and just sit and watch the sunset? What refuels you so that you can move forward?
Wow. Finding out what refuels us is so important. I really dig that. I mean, sunsets are my jam. I love to be on the beach and to feel that. But whatever it is, I think that's important. And if you don't know what it is, you got to experiment some. You got to do some of that hard work to figure out how you fill your bucket back up. Because if you don't, nobody else is going to. You have to serve yourself first. I was on an airplane yesterday, and I always remember on the airplane, right? They always say you got to put your oxygen mask on first. You got to put your life vest on first and save yourself first. Even though I got the 4-year-old sitting next to me, I know that I have to save myself first. And that's sometimes a hard lesson for those of us that like to give, right? That feel like have an endless supply of energy, because that's just not the case.
Well, and the other thing I love when you said, because many people, they are givers. I mean, I want to be, but you can drain yourself. I mean, Freudenberger, looked at the fact that it's not going to be the slacker who's going to go through the burnout. It's the person who cares desperately, who is the one it's the social activist. It's I'm running an orphanage. Whatever it is. I'm taking care of my aging mother. And that's going to require a lot of energy. And that can be drained too. And you can say, the voice in your head, you have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing it. You know what? I have to pull out for a while to refuel so I can go back and take care of my aging mother.
Yeah. Yeah, that caregiver fatigue is really a big thing. Brita Miller talks about that all the time, and that's really, really important as well. So we got that breakthrough. Hopefully we built up a little bit of energy, right? We got a little bit more energy management. Now we want to break through. So what does a breakthrough mean? And how can we get to that breakthrough so we see that opportunity and get to the other side?
Okay. So the book is called Burnout to Breakthrough. In between the burnout and the breakthrough is a breakout. And breakout is where, number one, I have to step back and say, "Whoa, might I have some of these symptoms of burnout?" And, in the book, I give some both personal prompts as well as corporate triggers that can trigger it. Then I have to be willing to step back. So this is the breakout is where I go, oh no, I see, this is what I'm doing. Breakthrough is where you go, now I know what to do. Now I know what to think. Now I have a course of action. So you need the breakout in order to come to the breakthrough. So it's going to require some honesty on your part. It's going to require some willingness to really think deep. What am I doing now? What do I choose? That's really important. What do I choose? There's language. What am I choosing to do? It's a very powerful, powerful word in our language. Because as soon as I say I have to, I gave up my power. I'm choosing to. When I choose to do something, what I want to give to myself are multiple ways of choosing, because that will tell me in the breakthrough which of those choices to me for this phase of my life. That's another important thing, because we'll go through phases of our life in which the energy requirements are going to shift because of the phase in life. So what am I choosing to do in this? And what's my breakthrough here so that I can refuel, recharge, and reclaim what matters at this phase of my life? Make sense?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It's so beautiful. The power of choice is such a big thing when you're looking at breakthrough, realizing that you have more power, more choice than you realize you had. The get to versus the got to. And it's so big, so big. So Eileen, if folks want to get more here, we're talking about the website, right? At yourname.com, EileenMcDargh.com/burnout, McDargh, EileenMcDargh.com/burnout. You can get more about the book and learn more. But if folks were saying, you know what, I'm just going to do one thing differently today, what would that be, Eileen? How would they get started along this journey of breakthrough?
Let's see. Can I turn water to wine? No. That's almost what you've asked me to do, because each person is different. Here's what I would say. If I were to do one thing different, I guess I would start with, are you willing to examine and be honest about what's consuming your energy today? Notice I say today, not yesterday, not what's coming up, but today. Because this is the only day I have power, Phil. And so what is it that is consuming my energy today? Is this what's important to me now? Are there different ways that I could go about this? Maybe I don't need to go about this. The other thing I think that helps us on this path, as silly as this is going to sound silly, is what are you grateful for today? What are you grateful for today? See, when I realize how much we have to be grateful for, it's another way of refueling. It's so often easy to look at the negative, the things that are empty, the things that are missing, what I can't do. Remind yourself. In fact, I think it should be written. I'm a great believer in writing and taking things out of my head and putting on paper, because that actually clarifies my thinking. Remember, everything is going to start up here. What am I grateful for today? This morning, Phil, I have a great gratitude journal. And what did I write in there? I was grateful the fact that you and I were going to get to talk. I'm grateful for the fact that the book came out yesterday, and we're seeing such really positive responses to people who found value there. That can feed me for today.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. It's funny you say gratitude, because that's the one big muscle I've been working on the last year. Every day I try to be grateful for 3 different things. Just find something small. Sometimes it's something big, but sometimes it's something small. And it just reminds me that everything is a choice, and that I have power so that I can work through those things, as you mentioned, which is really cool. I love that. There's so much there and so much to learn. So friends, if you're looking to get more of this, definitely check out Eileen. Get a copy of the book, Burnout to Breakthrough, Building Resilience to Refuel, Recharge, and Reclaim What Matters. Check out her website. Check it out. Get the resiliency report, and just stay connected with Eileen. She's really, really smart about all this great stuff, regardless of where you are in your life. You can watch this as much as you want. As we get to the end of this, do what you will, right? Bookmark the video and come back and view it a few more times if it'll help you. Get a copy of the book and reach out. Be grateful for everything that's here, as I'm grateful for you, my friend.
Love you.
You too, my friend. Thank you for everything. This was beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you.